Hey guys, it's Tim Melvin checking in here. Meant to get my mid-year baseball write-up kind of done over the weekend. Been too much going on. I've got notes scattered everywhere written down. So I decided, what, the hell with it. I'm just going to do it as a video this year, and we'll get back to a long write-up at the end of the baseball season. So we've got 5 of the 6 division winners at the midpoint. We correctly picked as eventually winning the division. That would be the Washington Nationals, the Los Angeles Dodgers, the Houston Astros, Cleveland Indians, and unfortunately the Boston Damn Red Sox, all leading their divisions at this point. Biggest surprise, the Milwaukee Brewers. Nobody had them picked to do much. I didn't, certainly did not. I knew they'd added some talent. Didn't realize it was quite this much. They're hitting for power. They're being aggressive. They're doing what they need to do to win. Can they stay all year? I doubt it. I really do expect the Cubs to make a huge second half move. They're showing signs of that. They were certainly healthy as they took the series from the Baltimore Orioles over this past weekend. Speaking of my Orioles, in the offseason, Dan Duquette made some big bets. Now, first, he bet that the pitching staff, the young pitching staff, Kevin Gossman, Dylan Bundy, Chris Tillman coming back as a natural leader, the addition of Wade Miley, adding some productive innings to the rotation, and Ubaldo simply not being horrible, that it would work out and the staff would be adequate. Yeah, that didn't work at all. 29th in the league in earned run average. In case you're keeping notes, there's 30 teams in Major League Baseball, and we are dead last in runs allowed in all of Major League Baseball. That's not that's not how you win games. Our pitching has been truly horrible. It's been the starters, it's been the relievers. Zach Britton's been hurt for a good part of the year, but he's back now. We'll see how he does. Really haven't been able to give him a save situation so far. So we'll see how Zach does, or even if he stays with the team for the second half of the year. Pitching is horrible, probably not going to get better. The biggest disappointment here to me is Kevin Gausman. Gausman has the stuff to be a top-of-the-line pitcher. He just doesn't seem to care. I think the young man may be smarter than all of us. He got a nice signing bonus when he signed. He's getting a decent salary. I think Mr. Gausman knows he doesn't have to try. He can do what he does, play out his contract. The Orioles will release him, and guess what? He's still got a future making about $1 million a year for 5 to 10 years as a reliever. Or, if he decides to give a shit for, 3 outs occasionally in some games, he might actually be a top-notch closer. Clearly doesn't care about being a starter. Incredibly sporadic. Huge disappointment. I thought he had the stuff to be a star. He's got the arm. Not sure he's got the head and the desire to be a great Major League Baseball pitcher. Huge disappointment. He also bet, Mr. Duquette did, that the offense would stay the same. Banging balls out of the park, leading the majors in homers, lots of RBIs, lots of runs. Yeah, nope, didn't happen. Let's see, we're 11th in the majors after leading the majors for a couple years in home runs. We are 22nd in runs scored. So 22nd in runs scored, 30th in runs allowed. Anybody seen how the math is working against this team here? It's pretty bad. And I do not think we have what it takes for a second half surge. Now, one guy's going to have a second half surge, and that's Manny Machado. He's hitting a little bit for power, but his average is right around the 230 mark. So not really the 300 hitter that we saw out of our third baseman last year. So, no, the club's done. They're not going to make a run. The AL East is incredibly tough. Boston, of course, everything that we thought they would be. Took them a little while to develop, but they're right there. Great offense, excellent pitching, outstanding defense. Probably still going to win the division. Tampa Bay is playing some fantastic baseball. I catch a few Tampa Bay games because they're the local TV. And you know what? That's a much better team than it was last year, and I think they may have what it takes to stay in it, at least for the wild card. The New York Yankees, wow. I knew there'd be some excitement. You had Chapman, you had Judge coming up. Everybody expected big things, and you knew Gary Sanchez was going to play pretty well. Now, Sanchez was hurt for part of the year, but he's back. He's productive. He's hitting the ball. Aaron Judge is the huge story of MLB this year. The guy's just knocking the ball out of the park, 30 home runs, won the home run derby. The guy is legitimately going to be a superstar in Major League Baseball. You've got almost the equivalent of Manuel Maris or Ruth Gehrig going on in New York right now, and the supporting cast around them, like Starlin Castro, well, they're hitting the ball pretty well too. So, does the pitching hold up all year? Remains to be seen, but that offense is fierce, and it's going to keep the Yankees in it all the way up to the end, I think. So I think the wild card is going to come out of the AL East. It'll either be Tampa or the New York Yankees. So tough division. We're done. Now, Dan Duquette had a couple good years as GM. He had the team right in there in the playoffs, at least in the wild card, winning record. Buck Showalter making his magic moves on the field. But even Buck needs to have the right pieces to make the right moves. We don't have the right pieces right now. So Duquette's made a horrible decision in the offseason. The offense got worse. The pitching did not improve. Terrible decision. So from my point of view, here's the first thing. Everybody, with the exception of Dylan Bundy and Trey Mancini, are available. That's just how it has to be. We've got to do what Houston did, what the Cubs did. We've got to step back, go young, rebuild a little bit. Wellington Castillo's got great catcher. My goodness, it's been a pleasure watching this guy play. Did not miss Matt Wieters at all. He stepped in and he's done it with the bat and behind the plate. But you know what? I was watching Chance Sisco, who's the catcher down at AAA Norfolk. I watched him in the Futures game. He's ready. You might as well bring the kid up. He can hit. He handles the staff okay. Got young pitchers. Be a great learning experience for him. Get what we can get for Castillo while he's having a very solid year. And let's start to refill the minor leagues. Everybody is available. I would be actively looking to move Manny Machado. Word is he does not want a long-term deal in Baltimore. Don't blame him. We're not going to be able to play with New York or the Dodgers or the Cubs. Or I've heard talk that Manny really wants to play in Miami at the right price. So I can't hold it against the kid. You want to play where you want to play. He's got some exceptional talents. His average is a little weak this year, but he's still getting it done in the field. He is hitting for power. I think we could get a lot for Machado, and he'd be right behind Castillo as the first one I was going to move. Same with Zach Britton. Before he goes out and blows it in the second half of the year, let's trade him. Well, we should have traded him in the offseason, let's be honest. We couldn't have replaced him with as good a closer, but I think we could have come close enough and collected a whole bunch of prospects and probably some position players for Zach in the offseason. So I'm not going to judge Dan Duquette by this year. Everybody's allowed to have an off year, an off moment. Goodness knows I've had off decades. So I am going to judge him harshly by what he does over the next 2 weeks. The team is done. The division's stacked in front of us. I do not believe, this is all crazy. The Orioles are going to the World Series now that I've said this on tape. But I don't think we have what it takes to make a run. So blow the team up. Keep the 2 points. I think Trey Mancini's going to be a great baseball player. Hits for average, hits for power, plays a decent field. Keep that kid. I think Dylan Bundy's on the way to stardom as well. He's got the work ethic. I think he's going to do fine. Keep those two guys. Everybody else is available. Let's see what we can get. There's a lot of contenders that need missing pieces and parts, and we've got pieces and parts, so let's see what we can get for him. If he doesn't do that, if he goes out and signs some overpaid veteran or does some other foolish move thinking we can contend, well, then we're going to judge Mr. Duquette a little more harshly going forward. So the big surprise again is the Brewers. I look at the Cubs, I look at the talent, I look at the manager. I think they did have a World Series hangover. They are going to make a strong run. Don't rule out the Cardinals coming up out of nowhere. They're still very much in wild card contention. And if things go south for the Brewers in that division, they're going to go south very, very quickly because there's some talented ball clubs right behind them. Washington Nationals still the class of the National League. I said about a week ago that I thought the Nationals were a bullpen away from greatness. Well, they went out over the break and got a bullpen. Did a trade with the Oakland A's, bought in two very experienced relievers who are having great years, makes that bullpen and that team a lot stronger than it was going into the break, and they were already one of the best teams in baseball. Bryce Harper let you know that he's not planning on a second half letdown. As in first game back, he hit 2 home runs, and he's been hitting well in the games since then. So still looking for fantastic things out of the Nationals. You got to face that team, and four of the first 6 hitters that you face are hitting over 300 and hitting for power. Just a scary lineup. Can't count out the Los Angeles Dodgers. As I said last week, they really look poised to make a huge run. Yasiel Puig is back. I'm sure his manners have gotten no better, but he's hitting bombs. He's playing well. He's doing what they pay him to do. You've still got Kershaw, the class of National League pitching at this point. So we're not going to rule out the Dodgers by any stretch. They're going to make a strong run. In the National League, I do believe it will be the Dodgers and the Nationals playing for the league title. As I said, this is the Nationals' year. In the American League, as the wild card, it's either going to be New York or Tampa. We'll see who wants it more. It's not going to be Baltimore or Toronto. And I think that in the AL East, those two teams will have a better record than most folks in baseball. Best record's going to belong to either Houston or Washington by the end of the year. We'll see how all that breaks down. Probably going to give the edge to Houston. They play a much weaker division in the AL West than the Nationals have to deal with in the NL East. So that could put the World Series with home game advantage to Houston should they get to the series. The American League title game, I'm going to go ahead and say it's Boston and Houston, and going to change my original prediction just because I do truly hate the Boston Red Sox, and my nephew is a pretty big Astros fan. So we're going to say Nationals Astros, but it remains the Washington Nationals year, especially now that they've shored up that bullpen. We'll see how it all plays out. There's a lot of great baseball to be played. There's some fantastic storylines. You have Eric Thames in Milwaukee, came back from Japan and is just clobbering the ball. You've got Cody Bellinger with the Dodgers, young rookies come up, leading the National League in home runs, playing some fantastic baseball. Harper's always a story. Mike Trout's back off the DL, so it'll be interesting to see what he does over the second half of the year. Dallas Keuchel's going to be back with Houston. He was the first to 9 games. So, a lot of great storylines, a lot of great baseball still to be played. But I like Nationals Dodgers in the National League with the Nationals coming out on top. Houston and Boston in the American League, and we're going to change that to the Astros defeating the damned Red Sox and going on to play in the World Series, probably with home field advantage, but they're still going to lose, I'll say in 6 games, to what is going to be this year's baseball juggernaut, the Washington Nationals. So anyway, that gets our mid-year update out of the way. I promise you I'll do a much lengthier analysis at the end of the year. Just got a whole bunch going on right now, so did it by videotape instead of the usual write-up. Hope you enjoy it. Have a great week.